Want to remember what to say when you give a presentation and not suddenly blank out in the middle of it? I know, because I've seen it. It definitely happens where people will start going like, uh-oh, and they forget what to say. So here are 5 things that you can do to ensure that that doesn't happen to you. Number 1, practice. This sounds super obvious, but I want you to practice in the right way because there are right ways to practice and wrong ways to practice. It's like they say, practice makes perfect, but it's really not that. It's perfect practice that makes perfect. So what I want you to do is practice your presentation all the way through and do it perfectly at least 5 times. If you can do it at least 5 times perfectly, you probably got a pretty good handle on the presentation. If you haven't nailed it by those 5 times, or you keep making small mistakes, maybe go back and check and see if you could improve the presentation. Maybe there are parts of it that you are having trouble with because those parts don't really resonate with you. They don't sound the way that they should. Maybe you just don't like those parts that much. Go back and fix those and then do the practice again and see if you can get it right this time. Remember, at least 5 times, and even better, 10 times perfectly is the best. Number 2, create an outline. If you make an outline of your presentation and make sure you have certain big categories, you're making it so that it's easy to remember sections rather than trying to remember from A to Z or 1 to 100 or whatever it might be. It's just a way for you to stay organized so that you remember everything you need to remember when you give your presentation. Number 3, use visual aids. This is, of course, your presentation slides. Now, this doesn't mean that you write everything out on the slides and just read off of the slides. That is a huge no-no. If you do that, do not do that ever, because I will definitely come and give you heck for doing that. I don't know how, but I will. What you want to do is you want to use those visual aids to give you a hint, to remind you of what you have to say. You can use keywords, you can use visuals. It doesn't really matter what you do. Just use those visual aids as a way to remind you what you have to do. Of course, if you've practiced and you've done it 10 times perfectly or 5 times perfectly, as soon as you see that visual aid, you'll remember what to say. You won't need as much prompting or remembering things. It'll sort of come more naturally to you. Number 4, rehearse difficult sections. There will be parts of your presentation that you maybe don't like as much. Remember I mentioned that at the beginning that, hey, maybe you should fix it? Well, if you can't fix those, if you really have to put that part into your presentation that maybe you don't like, that is more difficult, practice those parts more. It's just like anything else. You want to do the things that are more difficult so that when it comes time to actually having to do them, they're easier to do. When it comes to your presentation, work on the parts that you find to be challenging. Maybe it is words that you have trouble pronouncing. Maybe it's facts or data that you have trouble remembering. Practice those things. Find a visual way to remember them. Use cues. Whatever you need to do to remind yourself and to remember those things. Number 5, use mnemonics. Mnemonics are memory devices. They're ways to help you to remember large chunks of information. In fact, one of my favorites is actually chunking, but that might be difficult for you, so try to find a mnemonic device that works for you. One of them might be using acronyms. Use whatever it takes to help you to jog your memory and to really commit your presentation into your brain so that when you actually get up there and have to give it, it'll just come out naturally. The big thing is, of course, give yourself enough time. Do not think that you can remember everything in a presentation at the last minute. It just won't happen. If you're not sure how to prepare for one of those last-minute presentations, check out this video here about that very topic and some other topics here about gaining confidence and overcoming anxiety when you give a presentation.